All right, click the links to support channel, subscribe to the various other video hosting platforms. So you don't want to check out Scooby-Doo Rule 34 and turn off the safe search. It's there's furry stuff in there. Oh, I guess because there's a dog in there. I guess that would make sense. It's horrific. You just don't need to see that stuff. So they're making the character BLT. Why does it look like Scooby has 3 eyes there? Of course they are. That should be the response to, oh, hey, they race swapped some character. Well, yeah, naturally, of course. So we're not, what is it? We just want to get married. That was like 20 years ago. We just want to get married. I think it's San Francisco or California as a whole. Was that with Gavin Newsom when he was mayor? I don't remember. We just want to get married. And you're like, oh, this is a slippery slope. Oh, you silly Christians. What do you know? You look at it now, you look at this current Weimar and current year, you're like, oh, dear God. Oh, my. If you told people 20 years ago where you'd be now, they wouldn't. They would think that you were tinfoil hat. They would think you were insane. And you try to tell people, yeah, what do you think you're going to be like 20 years from now? I mean, you just can't. You're like, the mind doesn't. I mean, not even 20 years. It's more like 5 years when... maybe even less, like when things, I mean, they're doing stuff openly now. At some point, people are going to go, you know what? Maybe a civil war, or not a civil war, maybe a civil dissolution, recognizing that people have irreconcilable differences, where you just don't want to live around people who do stuff like that to kids. Like, you just don't want them, de facto as well as de jure, you just don't want to be around people who do stuff to kids. You know, once you're over 18, maybe knock yourself out. But under that, like, there's people go like, you know what? It really would be better to split up than to have to live around people who have, like, drag queen story hour. That's just not something we want to get on board with. So, you know, they go, we just want to get gay married. And then, like, 20 years later, they're doing this stuff to kids, and that slippery slope. That's just a fallacy. Well, I guess that one's been proven wrong. So, they're not pushing this to kids, except... They are. I mean, 20 years ago, you had no idea that social media would be this powerful. But yeah, of course, they're pushing it to kids, and they're pushing it to schools. And there's pronoun closets or like trans closets in schools. And yeah, if you see the stuff they're teaching kids, I mean, it's of a prurient interest. I mean, it's soul crushing. These basically sacrifices to Moloch. So Scooby-Doo, and then they came for Velma. Their argument is that if you wouldn't be offended by a straight relationship, then the BLT one should be the same thing. But it's not. We all know it's not. And it's just time to kind of admit a lot of things that politeness and political correctness have kept people from talking about it. Eventually, you're going to have to be honest and say that it's a negative thing. It's something that you don't want around your family. It's not in accord with your values for whatever reasons. And yes, they'll call you istophobic. We know how the argument goes. It's just a mathematical flowchart. So the next part of the equation is a bigger red pill. Those terms are control terms. All those hot words, those phrases they use, they're used to manipulate you into compliance using fear and social pressure. But the red pill isn't just as it applies to the BLT terms, but to all of those terms. They're all used by Marxists to control you and compel behavior. It's a serious red pill because the ramifications have the potential to radically change society. You got to kind of think like, well, where would we go if we went down this different pathway? Is anything better than this? That's not exactly true, but the current timeline we're going down is horrific, and we're in the beginning of it, and the stuff you're seeing is absolutely, you know, if you're removing children's ability to reproduce, I mean, what else is there other than that? We need to create a structure where we become politically incorrect, where people realize that they're being manipulated, which also means we need our own safe spaces where we're free to discuss things without getting fired. Essentially, that's what a lot of it boils down to. It's like you don't have free speech when these NGOs can destroy your life, or when CNN will dox you and hack your accounts to destroy your life. And at some point, you're going to have to look at those companies and the people who are fomenting this discord, and kind of wonder, well, what are their motivations? Which, you'd hope the media would talk about, but it's that's not going to be. You're going to be hoping a long time. So society can't continue along this current pathway, where if you say that you don't want your kids exposed to this stuff, you might get doxxed, fired, debanked, and all these other sort of things. Have CNN, have a Taylor Lorenz show up at your doorstep, and then have Bank of America call you and refuse your services, and get fired and then evicted, and essentially unpersoned in current digital Weimar. So effectively, you're enslaved by people who can call you istophobic on social media, and your life is destroyed. If you saw what happened to Owen Benjamin, like some people like him, some people don't like him, but a story he told about what happened to him in Hollywood rings true about speaking out against doing stuff to kids. And all he had to do was stay silent, and he would have had a nice little C-level career as an actor and a comedian. But because he spoke out against people hurting kids, that's not what you can do in Hollywood. So and he's on Shing too, actually, which is an amazing live streaming platform. So there's no solution to this from within the system, because the structure of the system got us to where we are right now. We're slaves to people who the globalists use as puppets. This kind of intertribal conflict is only possible with different people who have different value systems. And no, mixing those value systems is not a strength. It's conflict. I mean, you'd have to be an idiot. Like, where historically has it been a strength to have people who have different belief systems and ideologies mixed together? Many of us don't value BLT propaganda for religious reasons, but also sort of for tribal reasons, because it's not organic. It's being pushed to destroy nations, and specifically to destroy some rather than others. Some people are waking up to it, and it would be impossible to ignore this Frankfurt School manipulation that's going on. And no, it's not just a Scooby-Doo cartoon. It's pushing something we might disagree with, because we fundamentally feel it's a negative thing. But they have made that not politically correct to say. They have power and money to run. They've got like the ADL, SPLC, ACLU, thousands of political action committees, media companies. They're able to influence and control. They're in absolute control of the narrative right now. They got Jankowicz to form. She was going to be the Ministry of Truth girl, and then they looked at her TikToks and thought, this is cringy. But the thing is, they just replaced her. They didn't give up on the concept of Ministry of Truth. That's going to happen one way or another, unless things go down a different pathway. I mean, like, I don't know where I hate to say normie, because I know that's kind of a cringy way to sound, but like, if you're watching the mainstream TV, you have one view of the world. But if you're on Telegram and Gab and Odyssey and Shing and Bit Chute and all these other sites, like, you're seeing news clips that you're not just hearing tinfoil hat stuff. You're seeing actual footage, actual clips, actual stories from all over the world, real things, real pieces of evidence. And then you look at the mainstream, what people are watching on a TV screen, the dinosaur media, and realize, holy shit, this what's coming across the TV and the mainstream social media is very much not what is actually happening. I mean, you can see the firsthand clips, the raw footage yourself on Telegram, Gab, and all these other sites, and it's telling a radically different story. And even some stuff on Twitter, people can sneak this stuff out for a little bit. So they're openly doing horrible things right now. What do you think the future holds? How they manipulate us? Well, first, they use their control of the media to introduce these shield terms. All the istophobic terms, it takes a few years, decades maybe, but then these groups, they do horrible things from behind these shields, and they just raise the shields when you start to point it out. And you saw what happened with Gingrich in that Fox interview. They never have to address the argument. They simply attack you by calling, and that was on Fox too, keep in mind. They simply have to attack you by calling you istophobic. It's only possible because our media, the mainstream media, is 100% controlled by these globalists. They're very much all on the same agenda. That's why That's why the general population is kind of wondering why our representatives are so far out of whack with the population, because of course they're not our representatives. They're their representatives. I've named the names before. I mean, by now you've got to be aware of it. They don't. No. They don't represent us. Those people in Washington or even in Europe, same thing. Absolutely not. They don't represent us. They there never is any debate or argument every time there's an issue. Every issue that matters is presented as a conclusion, a fait accompli. Yes, Fox, CNN, and MSNBC, even Newsmax, yeah, those are all wings of the same bird. OAN and Gab are banned from the mainstream, and I think there's a couple other sites that are doing good stuff too. But those are kind of, Gab is kind of leading the way, and OAN too. There's some really base dudes on there. Twitter won't even allow Bit Chute links, and even the funny thing is, even like on Alex Jones stuff, it's not that he's so honest. It's that he has guests on who are more honest, and then people in the comments, and it's like everyone drops red pills in their own little way, and it's all kind of a way to get you to ask questions, to realize like there's an area on the map that's missing, and so then you start looking at that, and you're not going to find and you notice like, wait a minute, this is missing from all the mainstream maps, and then as soon as you get off the mainstream, you go, oh, here's a reason. You go, oh well. So wait, the mainstream knows this is a missing, here there be dragons, a missing area of the map, and they're deliberately keeping it from us. Oh, it's not relevant. It's not probative of any of the truth of the matter asserted. Well, it seems that it might be because you all left it off, and the alternative media included this information. It seems like it might actually be relevant. And then it kind of makes me look at the mainstream media and realize, oh, how long have they been doing this? And you go back and, at least 50 years. It's just a case of getting worse and worse, especially since the events of about 21 years ago. Anyway, those all those like OAN and Gab, they just get banned from the mainstream. Even Twitter was they banned Bit Chute links, but I think they allow Odyssey links, which is the same thing. In fact, Odyssey is even freer speech than Bit Chute because it's not incorporated in the UK. But they still have it in their mind. You realize like, oh wait, you're not just banning the site. Or first they banned it, then they gave a warning, then they banned it. But you realize that they're not just banning one site that's quote unquote problematic. It's like they're going to ban World Truth Video, Odyssey, and some other sites I'm not even going to name, but. Like, they're just banning anyone who contradicts the narrative. Eventually, you got to realize, wait a minute, the truth doesn't fear investigation. The truth is a lion. You set it free, it will defend itself. Adults don't need to censor other adults' information. That's what an authoritarian does. Why would we think that someone else is better able to filter our information for us? Not just America because you get the Bill of Rights, but it's like even in Europe where they gladly kowtow to censorship. Why would any adult need a government to censor their information for them, especially governments that have a history of acting not in the people's interests? Anyway, the puppet masters are terrified of a counter argument. The thing is, globalism, Marxism, whatever, all those kind of things, they're roughly on the same page. They can't survive in a free speech zone because in the open marketplace of ideas, they really don't have the better argument. That's why they censor and deplatform, because they don't win open discussions, open debate. The proof is that the right wing will talk to anybody. Will tell you, hey, read anything you want, watch any videos, all the banned books that are not. No. We're not talking about Mark Twain or some BLT book that are on Amazon. We're talking about the stuff that's not allowed on Amazon. Hey, read it all. If you want to read the Communist Manifesto to Mein Kampf to whatever, read it all. Hey, knock yourself out. Go ahead, go for it. We can say that, but the left wing won't say that. They go, no. We have to censor this. Like, watch all those speeches, man. Track down all the videos you want, and make up your own mind. That concept of make up your own mind, that terrifies people on the left. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, check me out, subscribe star if you can. I'll see you guys next episode.